Greetings from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch studios at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch headquarters in downtown St. Louis. Welcome to STL Soccer Talk here at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and STLtoday.com. She's Beth O'Malley. I'm Tom Timmermann, and welcome. And Beth, we might have to go through the archives on this, but I believe either here or in the podcast studio or in print, when like the injury started happening and when they signed Cedric, Teuchert said, City just has to survive until the transfer window opens. And if they can still be relevant in the playoffs, then they'll be okay.
So the question now is, are they still relevant for the playoffs?
By a really tiny margin. I mean, they are hanging on
right.
By the
skin of their teeth.
By their skin, hanging on.
I think yeah, we just mixed so many metaphors
right there. But so the transfer window is just open as on Thursday when we record this, and they are
in desperate need.
Desperate need. They were looking at winning 7 of their last 10 games, but the reinforcements have arrived. Cedric Teuchert, we expect to play Saturday, and
I expect to play he's been practicing with the team. He probably is up on his fitness.
Right.
Definitely
he's had 2 weeks of good training with the team.
Right.
He's settled, everything is good. So the Teuchert will get a good chance. But I was surprised when John Hackworth told me last night that Marcel Hartel could play even though Saturday, even though as we record this, he may still actually be in Europe.
It did sound a little bit like Hackworth expected Hartel to land in Kansas City, get off the plane, grab a taxi to the soccer stadium and step onto the field. And if that happens, we'll have to see how his fitness is and how he gels with the team he may have never practiced with. We don't know if he's not with the team yet or when he will arrive.
He's going to meet them in Kansas City, and they're still in Seattle. So he won't see them until at least Friday, one would think.
Right. So it would be a big surprise to see him on the field, but Hackworth seems to think he'll be able to do it.
Yeah, and he's a designated player. It's a big deal, if they could get him.
And certainly the team needs to see not just that new energy on the field with the transfer players, but the skills that they're going to bring. The game in Seattle, I thought, showed a better defense, generally speaking, with some unlucky breaks, but the offense continued to have the same problems they've been having for games, weeks, months.
Yes, I mean this time they were shut out. They at least had been managing one goal or so, but they need offensive help. And as you saw yesterday, Wednesday against Seattle, in a game in which Samuel Adeniran was not in the roster because his impending trade was really impending at that point. In fact, it had pretty much been completed by that point.
Yeah.
They had on the bench in attacking positions Caden Glover and Mackay Joyner. Mackay Joyner, who signed a contract with City 2 basically on Monday, and now here was 2 days later on loan to the big club, coming in at halftime, playing 45 minutes, and I gotta say, actually doing pretty well under the circumstances.
He definitely was making runs and challenging the goalie even. It was great to see him get that experience. I feel kind of bad for him at the same time because he joined a team that he needed to do. Any player who would step into that role needs to do more and needs to score, especially for this team. And he performed well, but didn't do that.
Mackay Joyner, and maybe a new name to a lot of people, but he's an academy kid. He's from Bloomington, Illinois, played with City 2, has 9 goals, second most in MLS Next Pro. And now is signed a homegrown contract. Sam Adeniran is finally traded. the ups and downs, the ins and outs, and finally a deal has been made.
How did you put it in the feature you did about Adeniran a few last week?
The long and crazy road that he's had? Yes. And so Sam Adeniran traded to Philadelphia. They got $150,000 worth of GAM for him, plus an additional, I think, $300,000 if various incentives are met.
I'm not going to ask you to explain GAM because that will be an entirely 10-minute long video. So
it's confusing. But anyway, Samuel Adeniran, was great last year, 8 goals, his goals per minute, exceptional. This year, 2 goals in the first 2 games, looked like he was going to keep going. Hadn't scored a goal in 15 games he's played since then. Ran afoul of Brad Carnell at some point, was suspended for a couple of games, sat out 3 more because there was an impending move that looked like it was going to happen that didn't happen, and now he sat out 1 game and a move did happen. Adeniran was very valuable last season, and he had that chance this year, and this year didn't work.
No, it did not. And so it's good to see a player who has potential move on to a team where they might, I don't want to say appreciate that, but nurture that.
He's going to get a chance. Philadelphia is a team much like St. Louis, in which there were always good expectations, and they have not done well this year. They just snapped a 10-game winless streak last night, and it's to the point. I mean, they suited up the youngest player in MLS history who got in a game. Who played he's 14 years old. He's 14 years old, and he played for Philadelphia last night. But that's a different team, and it's a different podcast. You'll have to track down PHL Soccer Talk to hear more about that one. Don't know if my buddy Jonathan Canwald is doing it, but anyway.
You can listen to Tom and I talk about all of these topics and many more on our podcast.
Yes, which we'll do right now, I think. But in any case, listen to the podcast, read the story, look at us online, subscribe to the Post-Dispatch, and gosh, there's less to talk about because it's stretch run time is really underway, and the transfer window is open. For producer Ali Scheller behind the camera, for Beth, for Tom, wait, that's me. Until next week, be seeing you.